In this video, we are going to start with question 1. So we are going to work on question 1. Okay, so without wasting any time, we are told that Mrs. Africa is a grade 10 teacher, and she decided to have one big party to celebrate all the learners in her register classes birthdays. Okay, and then given below is the tail slip she received after doing some of the shopping for the party. And then we are asked to study the tail slip and answer the questions that follow. So we are told or asked to study the tail slip and answer the questions that follow. So the first question will be question 1.1. So question 1.1 says that, what is the meaning of the hashtag symbol? So they are asking us what is the meaning of this hashtag symbol that is shown or found on the slip. So it is saying, what is the meaning of the hashtag symbol that is found next to certain prices, on the tail slip. So those are the items that are excluded from VAT. So those are the items that are excluded from VAT. Meaning that when we calculate our VAT, we need to exclude these items. Okay, so now let's move to the next question, which is question 1.2. So question 1.2 says that, calculate the total cost of the hamburger buns. So if we look at our slip, the first item, it is the hamburger buns, and 8 items were bought. Okay, and 1 were costing 10 rand 99 cent, meaning that to calculate the total cost, remember only 8 were bought or purchased. 8 items were purchased and 1 were costing 10 rand 99 cent. So to calculate the total cost, we just take 8 and multiply by the 10.99. Okay, so the total cost of hamburger buns would be 8 multiplied by 10.99, which in total would be 87.92. Okay, so now let's move to the next question, which is question 1.3. So question 1.3 says that, write the cost of 1 bag of jelly beans as a ratio to the cost of 1 bag of chips. So we are told to write as a ratio. So we are told to write 1 bag of jelly beans, meaning that we need to come here and say 1 bag of jelly beans. Remember, it's a ratio. It's a ratio. That's why we need to have the 2 dots. To 1 bag of chips. One bag of chips. And then now we have written our ratio in words. Now we need to come and replace it with actual numerical figures. So we need to write 1 bag of jelly beans. So if we go back to our slip, we can see that 1 jelly beans cost 25 rand. So we need to come here and say 25 too, and then we need to write 1 bag of chips. So we can see that 1 bag of chips, so it is written as Simba chips. 1 bag of chips cost 15 rand. So if we go back to our question, we are told to give our answer in a simplified ratio. Okay, so we are told to give our answer in a simplified ratio. So to do that, we need to find the factors of either 25 or 15. And what do we mean by factors? So factors are numbers that when we add or when we multiply them, they give us 15 in this case. So let's use 15. Let's use 15. So we can either use 25 or 15. So let's start with 15. So let's come and say factors of 15. So we know that so we need to find numbers that when we multiply them, they need to give us 15. So we know that if we multiply 5 and 3, so 5 multiplied by 3 gives us 15. So now these two becomes our factors. They become our factors. And when we come here, let's start with 3, for instance. So we need to come here and divide by 3. And remember that what we do on our left hand side or what we do on our right hand side, we also need to do it on our left hand side. And then remember the question says that in a simplified ratio, meaning that the answer that we get here needs to be a whole number. It must not have any commas. If it have any commas, it means that we need to change our factor. So let's start. We will have 15 divided by 3, which will give us 5. So this one is okay. And then 25 divided by 3 will give us 8.3. 8.3. So this one is wrong. Our answer must not have any commas. So now we need to come and change our factor. Okay, so now let's use 5. Let's use 5. So 15 divided by 5, it will give us 3. And then 25 divided by 5, it will give us 5. So we can simply say that this is our simplified ratio because both numbers are whole numbers. Okay, so now let's move to our next question, which is question 1.4. So before we do that, let's create a bit of space. And don't forget that we do have extra classes, guys. And if you want to join our extra classes, you can just send a message to the number that you are seeing on the screen. And then we will add you on the group. And our extra classes are very affordable. They only cost 80 Rand per month. Okay, so now let's move to the next question, which is question 1.4. So question 1.4 says that show how the VAT amount of 123.79 has been calculated. So we need to show how the VAT amount of 123.79 has been calculated. Okay, so we need to show that. So if we go if we look at our slip, we can see that there is an amount of, so the total amount paid by Miss Africa was 1,018 Rand 97 cents. So now we need to calculate the amount of VAT. So remember that our first question was saying what is the meaning of the hashtag symbol, and we said that those are the items that are excluded from VAT. So So now we need to exclude those items because we exclude them when calculating VAT. And the total were 69.95.95. So the amount that we are going to get here is the one that we are going to use to calculate our VAT. So it's 18.97 minus 69.95. And the answer would be 949.02. So now this include VAT, right? This include VAT. So now let's find the total excluding VAT. Total excluding VAT. So how do we do that? We come and take this value, which is 949.02, and multiply by 100 divided by 115. So the amount that we will get now is the total excluding VAT. So this include VAT. So now we want to find the total amount excluding VAT. That's why we need to come and divide by 115. So we multiply by 100 and divide by 115 because we are told that our VAT is calculated at 15%. Okay. So now we need to come and say 949.02 multiplied by 100 divided by 115, and we will get 825.23. So this is the total excluding VAT. So now we can easily calculate our VAT from this total. And what we need to do is to just come and say 825.23 multiplied by 15 divided by 100 to get our VAT. So it will be 825. So it's 825.23 multiplied by 15 divided by 100. And there we go. We get our VAT, which is 123.7. Okay. So there we go. So this is our VAT. That's what we were asked. Remember the question said that show how the VAT amount of 123.79 has been calculated. So this is how it has been calculated. But before we move forward, we can just first clarify it. So here it's 825.23 47826 47826. So let's write it in full. So it's 825.23 47826 multiplied by 15 divided by 100. You see? So now we can see that it is 123.78.785. So now if we are rounding it to 2 decimal places, it will become 123.79, meaning that don't round it off until you get the final answer. Don't round it off until you get the final answer, meaning that this 825.23, we need to write it in full so that when we get to the final answer, we can then round it off. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so now we will be moving to the next set of questions. So we can just create a bit of space. And don't forget, guys, to subscribe to the channel and to also like the video if you haven't. Okay, so now let's move to question 1.5. Let's move to question 1.5. So we are told that Miss Africa decided to display the birthday of every child that she teaches in a graph. Study the graph given below and answer the questions that follow. So we need to study the graph that is given and answer the questions that follow. So our first question would be question 1.5.1. So question 1.5.1 says that name the type of graph that Miss Africa used. So the type of graph, this would be the bar graph. This is the bar graph. Now let's move to question 1.5.2. So question 1.5.2 says that how many learners does Miss Africa teach in total? How many learners does Miss Africa teach in total? So what we need to come and do here, so we'll start from January. So in January we can see that there are 3 learners, and then in February there are 4 learners that are birthdaying, and then in March we have 2 learners, and then in April we have 3 learners, and then in May we have 8, and then in June we have 10 learners, and then in July we have 6 learners, and then in August we have 1, and then in September we have 7, and then in October we have 8, and then in November we have 4, and then in December we have 7. So we need to come and calculate. So it's 3 plus 4 plus 2 plus 3 plus 8 plus 10 plus 6 plus 1 plus 7 plus 8 plus 4 plus 7. And in total we can see that Miss Africa teaches 63 learners. Okay, so now let's move to the last question of question 1, which is question 1.5.3. So question 1.5.3 says that write down the month or months in which the second most birthdays are celebrated. So we can see that most birthdays are celebrated in June because there are 10 learners in June that are celebrating birthdays. And then the second highest would be in May and October because there are 8 learners in both those months that are celebrating birthdays. So our answer will be May and October. And that brings us to the end of question 1. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't subscribed.